What's up, everybody? Welcome to Smart Spaces Simplified podcast. My name is Bryan with Elite Media Installations. We are introducing this podcast to talk about how the audio-video integration world collides and intersects with multiple facets of the world today, from managed IT to physical security to a multitude of platforms. Today, we are bringing on Rick Topping from Ceeva to talk about how his business in an MSP managed IT capacity is intersecting with our industry in audio video integration and how important it is to keep both of those in your pocket. Today I have Rick Topping here with me from Ceeva. Rick, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about Ceeva.
Yeah, sure. So Ceeva is a managed IT and cybersecurity services company. As you know, we've been around for over 30 years. I've been there personally 20. And we do IT and cybersecurity for businesses all around we'll call it tri-state area.
Great. The reason I brought Rick on today is we have worked in the same account on numerous occasions, a couple big ones, a couple small ones, but a trend that I've seen in the going 16, 17 years that I've been in this industry is that the AV industry, though it still can be and was standalone, and your managed service provider, IT role used to be standalone, is now starting to collide, essentially. That when I go in and I install audio video equipment, it has some type of network component associated with it. It is difficult to buy a piece of technology today that doesn't have some type of networking requirements associated with it. So we are working in commercial environments, and I come in and I want to install some new audio video equipment or a conference room or some audio streaming device. And the first thing I have to ask of the customer is, who's your IT company, right? Because I'm in some way, shape, or form going to have to connect that stuff to the internet. So what is your thoughts on, and your perspective on, how the AV industry is currently intersecting with the managed IT world?
Sure. I mean, it's deeper than it's ever been, right? Mm-hmm. For the reasons you just specified. But I think the important part of having like a relationship with the IT, whether it's internal IT or a managed services company and the media company, the AV company, is never been more important. Because the way that I look at it is everything that we do, we think of it with a cybersecurity first kind of attitude, right? And so when you're integrating somebody else's systems into your business network, what do you want to do? You want to be safe, right? Mm-hmm. And for years it's been, well, we hired this company, they're going to put this camera system in, and then they come in and plug something into your network, and then they walk away. Mm-hmm. And you have no idea what they did. You have no idea what they opened you up to. And that's really scary for a business. Mm-hmm. When you think about the reasons that some of these folks are doing what they're doing at their organization, you said cameras, right?
Sure.
A lot of that is security based.
Sure.
So you want to protect the physical security, but you also want to protect the company's intellectual property or customer data. Well, you got to be in lockstep with the company to make sure you're doing it securely, safely. And that's our number one thing, and we've been very successful together with that.
Yeah, and it's important for commercial environments, whether it be a bar or a restaurant or a manufacturer or a community organization, to not only have a managed IT company associated with them, but from my perspective, I believe it's important for them to associate themselves with an audio video integration company, because their needs are growing in today's world for video conferencing and items like that. And if they just go contract company XYZ that just comes in and, like you said, plugs some things in, it creates vulnerabilities. So I think you might agree that it is good to associate yourselves with an AV company for any organization.
Oh, I mean, 100%. I mean, it's there's a lot of folks that will say, well, I'm going to go buy this camera system off of whatever website for $800, and then they introduce not only a vulnerability in their system, but a headache. And they don't realize that it's going to be such a headache, right? So you've got somebody who's being maybe a little bit cheaper than they would normally be, buying something for their office. and then they don't know how to manage it. And then they're asking their IT company or their IT person how to manage it, and they don't know how to manage it.
Right.
So you've got a recipe for failure, right? Immediately. So, it's you get what you pay for always, right? And so having somebody that you trust and you rely on to do all of those things and then expand that kind of portfolio of like, oh, we also do these cameras, or we also do automation, or we also do audio. And they're like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have called these folks earlier.
Sure.
That's, from my perspective, if it's my business, and I know we're doing some work together, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Getting by is fine, but doing better than getting by is what you guys do.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had a great working relationship for a couple years. I just went on a site to do a repair for your company, and talking to the decision makers there, I was just introducing myself and what we do, and I basically just told them, I said, if you need something technology related and Ceeva doesn't or can't do it for you, I said, just call me, because between the two of us, we essentially can accomplish anything technology related in a commercial environment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, in the same thing, like how many times have I called you like, hey, can you do this? Like we have no idea. And it's just outside of the scope of what we do.
Sure.
And that's exactly what you say. Like, you don't want to pretend you're the expert at something when you're not.
Right.
That's, again, recipe for failure.
Yeah. And I think the biggest component of that in the past 5, maybe more years, is video conferencing systems. They're complex, right? And you can't just mess around with it. You can't just flop a monitor on the wall and then go to your local technology store, buy a little webcam, and then hook it up to a computer and expect to get a good result, right?
Right.
And it's not in your company's kind of lane to be doing these conferencing systems. So you call us in, and there's the expectation for a conference room is high, but people just don't understand how complicated they are. Right. You have control issues, you have platform, you have third-party devices, which are the bane of my existence. Plugging a computer into a conferencing system is just asking for a disaster. That's driving down the highway with your lights off. You'll make it so far, but eventually something bad's going to happen, right? And if they don't have an AV integration relationship, who are they calling to fix their conference system?
Oh, their cousins, friends, brothers, former roommate, right?
Or you,
or
the youngest person on staff.
Yeah.
Right. And it's more complicated than that. There's not enough consideration taken into the microphone, which is the most important part of any type of communication. I mean, we have microphones in front of us here, right? And it has to be considered in the conference room on a complex system that. And a managed IT company, generally speaking, isn't set up to handle, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's even a little further than that, right? I mean, you got the tech. There's always the tech. But, between your leadership team and our leadership team, we're asking the important questions. Why are you doing this?
Yes.
What is the reason behind what you're doing this? And oftentimes, and you can probably attest to this, well, our board this, and our board is on Zoom, or half of them are on here, half of them are on there. And the frustrations that we've all seen in those board meetings are brutal, right? And it's always we're catching up to fixing something that exists while trying to integrate the new system, and it's hard, right? And people are frustrated, leadership's frustrated because they don't understand, and they shouldn't have to understand.
No,
it actually should just work.
It should just work,
but not when you're buying the system off of Amazon and picking your youngest employee or your IT company to go do it. That's why you exist.
Yes, that's why we exist. We also run into the similar situations. Oh, hey, I bought this camera system. I bought this. I bought that, and then you got to try to make it work, and it's just a disaster. Oh, the IT company put this in, or I walk into a conference room and for a meeting, and I look around. I'm like, oh my, what have you done to this place? And then
holes in the walls.
Yeah, and just wires hanging, and you try to have a conversation with them, and they're just happy with. They're happy. They're not. I don't even know if they're happy. They're just complacent with the current setup, and they don't understand because they haven't reached out to an integration company to say, oh, hey, let's evaluate this conference room, and your company does a good job of calling us and saying, hey, we have this conference room. It's not very good. Can you look at it for us?
Right.
But that's understanding your limitations. And I give kudos to you and your team,
Thank you.
For understanding that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we want to stay in our lane.
So do I.
Yeah.
We can do some IT stuff, and
I can run a cable, but
I can connect it to the internet.
Yeah. I mean, it's, what you kind of said is like, there's a lot of settling for mediocrity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I don't know what I don't know. Right. And we hear that. I mean, IT and managed services and cybersecurity have been around for a long, long, long time. And, when somebody finally, we'll call it, bites the bullet to do things the right way, the answer is always, I wish I would have done this so long ago. And the same thing goes exactly for what you guys do. I wish I would have done this so long ago. It's making my life so much better, easier. My board's happier. My leadership's happier, right? And that's what we want to do at the end of the day.
And
what's people happy?
What's it cost them to not do it the right way?
Oh my gosh, time! So much time, money,
sure,
frustration.
Yeah.
Right. I've seen relationships with other folks go sour because they did the wrong thing. Right, and against somebody's recommendation. You're not going to get every recommendation to go through. I get it. We're all in business together.
Sure.
But you can't put something that's bad in and expect a good result and expect the support that you expect for no good reason.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I run into the inverse of what we've been discussing. So I will go into an environment to install technology, and they don't have a managed IT company. So I look at them and I'm like, there's a vulnerability here. I can put all this stuff in, but we're touching the internet. Like, you really should consider a relationship with a managed IT company. But it's not cheap to have both of us in your organization, right? Managed IT is expensive, and us as a trade is also not cheap. So you can understand why they don't do both, but have one of us, right? One of us should touch your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a matter of making the right choices for the business always, right? What can you afford? What can you not afford? And that's not just money. Right? Can I afford a cyber breach? Right? Yes. Can I afford to have my board upset with me every single time we do a quarterly meeting or monthly meeting?
Compliance.
Yes. When you were talking about different places that do credit card swipes, like PCI compliance, like those things are like oftentimes not considered.
Yeah.
It's a balance. Everything's a balance of figuring out what the right thing is. Like, never let the quest for the great get in the way of the good. But you got to do the right stuff for your clients at the end of the day, right? And so you're a business serving a clientele. You got to protect their data. You got to make sure that they're served well. You got to make sure that the right people are in the room when you're having meaningful conversations. You know what I mean? But it's not terribly inexpensive to do these things.
No. So tell me a little bit about Ceeva's structure. Just talk about Ceeva. Brag about Ceeva for a little bit here. Come on.
Sure. I mean, I always can. We've been in business 30 some years. And we started like many other IT services companies that just fix computers, whatever stopped working, put a server in, whatever. But as we grew and the company, the world changed essentially, we became originally a cloud first company. It goes cloud first. We'll move people out of their offices for various items to whatever, data hosting centers, and that's fine. Everybody's doing that. But the world we live in today is we've got to be a cybersecurity first company, 100%. Whether it's your phone, whether it's your AV systems, whether it's your hosted servers, whether it's your in-house servers, whatever it may be, that's really where we focus a lot of our time, right? So we've got the staff of cybersecurity analysts, IT services provider, engineers, and we service organizations all around the region, right? Whether they're 10 people, whether they're a couple hundred people, we want to be a part of what do they want to do with their business, and how do we get there safely, securely, while just achieving their goals.
Sure.
That sounds very commonplace to say, but as an organization and the size that we're at, and the years that we put into this, we're really good at it.
Yeah,
we're really good at it.
You know what amazes me is when our biggest client, which we both know which one that is.
Yeah.
The stuff we have to work together on just makes me laugh sometimes. Like, we'll take access control, for instance.
Yeah.
It should be cut and dry, but we have a current instance at a certain location with a unique situation that we were trying to work through, and I couldn't get through it without your team, right? And your team couldn't get through it without my team,
and vice versa. Absolutely.
So it continues to double down on how important it is. Though we think we can do everything, and to an extent, everybody thinks they can do everything. Right. But until you have that great relationship, you don't realize how much you actually need somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's I know the site you're talking about. My technician Jay, who very well, came back and he was like, "We did all this stuff, and then this, and then I talked to Joel, and then I talked to Bryan, and we're doing this thing." And the customer said, "Yeah, like doing the right stuff." But it takes a village.
It does.
Right? And we built a hell of a village, if I may say so myself.
Sure.
And the customer is so much better off.
Yes.
And so much more secure. I mean, the space that they're in, you got to be really safe.
Yes. Yeah. We have made them more functionally efficient as a team over the years, but it took time.
Yeah.
It was bad, then it was not good. And I think we're getting to a good place.
Oh, yeah.
And it wouldn't be there if we both weren't involved.
Oh, 100%.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and kudos to the customer.
Absolutely.
Too, right?
To recognize it.
To recognize, like,
Sure.
hey, we got to bring these people together in a closer way. And then you and I got much closer.
Yes.
Because I got to tell you, first time I talked to you, I was like, who is this guy? I don't like him. Who is he? You know what I mean?
He's on my turf.
He's on my turf. But you know what I mean? As a business person, we get to know each other. And you and I have had many good conversations.
Yeah, and good beers.
I was going to say that, but I didn't know if you wanted to talk about beers on the podcast.
No, we could have a beers podcast. No, it's been a great relationship. I'm happy that we have built this and that I have a reference point to go to when I need something, and I'm confident to give your company as a referral to any of my customers anytime they need. I think it's been wonderful, and I think we have great things ahead. I mean, I think as we are getting more and more comfortable working together, we're only going to continue to identify what each company is capable of doing. And we can benefit both of our customers in the long term.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I definitely.
You fill my gaps, I fill your gaps.
That's it. And,
Sure.
and if the customers don't know that, which many of them don't today, we're doing ourselves a disservice, right?
Yes.
So I think there's a future, we'll call it a marketing future for us.
Yes, it is. All right, well, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you for coming on today, Rick. I greatly appreciate your time.
Very welcome.
We will meet again, but it will probably be at an establishment.
Likely.
That I just went to a new one recently. We'll talk about it after this.
All right.
And what my experience there was. It was good. So thank you all for joining me today on Smart Spaces Simplified. Hope you join me next time and click that button to subscribe.